Antioch was a very special city. Imagine, if you will, a place bustling with people from all corners of the world. It was a large, important city in the Roman Empire, a crossroads of trade and ideas. You would hear so many different languages spoken on its streets and see people with different customs and different beliefs. But right in the heart of this busy, worldly city, a small community of believers was growing. They were followers of Jesus, and their love for one another was a shining light in a city that often felt very dark. This little church was becoming a beacon of hope for so many. This church in Antioch was unique and beautiful. It was here that the followers of Jesus were first called Christians. What a wonderful name! It meant they belonged to Christ. This wasn't just a label, it was a description of who they were. Their lives were being changed by God's love. They shared what they had with those in need. They prayed together, they ate together, and they supported one another through good times and bad. The grace of God was so clearly upon them, and people from all walks of life were drawn to their community. Now let's meet the wonderful leaders God had gathered in this church. The book of Acts tells us there were prophets and teachers among them. These were men who listened closely to God's heart and shared his wisdom with the people. They were like shepherds, guiding the flock with love and care. Barnabas, Simeon, who was called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, Saul. Each one was a unique thread in a beautiful tapestry woven by God himself. They came from different backgrounds, yet were united by love for the Lord and desire to serve him. Think about the diversity of this group. Barnabas, the son of encouragement, a kind, generous man from Cyprus, always lifting others up. Simeon, called Niger, a man of African descent, a powerful reminder that God's family includes every nation. Lucius of Cyrene, from Cyrene in modern-day Libya, an early pioneer of the faith. Manaen, brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, likely raised in a royal court, yet he chose Jesus. And finally, there was Saul. We know him better by his Roman name Paul. He was once a fierce persecutor of Christians, but he had a dramatic encounter with Jesus that changed his life completely. Now, this brilliant and passionate man was using all his energy to build the very church he once tried to destroy. This group of 5 leaders, an encourager, a man of African heritage, another North African, a man from a royal court, and a converted persecutor, shows us the beautiful, diverse family God creates. They were united by love and service. One day, these faithful leaders were gathered together. What were they doing? The Bible tells us they were worshiping the Lord and fasting. Fasting is when you go without food for a period to help you pray more deeply and listen more closely for God's voice. This was not just a casual meeting. They had set aside time specifically to focus on God. They were pouring out their hearts to Him in worship, singing songs of praise and adoring Him for His goodness and love. In that holy, quiet moment, something incredible happened. They weren't seeking their own plans or trying to figure out the next step on their own. Their hearts were completely open to God, waiting on Him. And in that sacred atmosphere of worship and prayer, the Holy Spirit spoke. The message was simple and direct. Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. It was a divine assignment, a holy calling from heaven itself. The Holy Spirit didn't give them a 10-step plan or a detailed map. He simply gave them the next step. The work was still a mystery, a journey of faith they would have to walk out one step at a time. But the call was clear. God was about to do something new, something that would extend far beyond the city of Antioch. How did the church respond to this divine message? There was no arguing or debate. There was no hesitation or questioning of the Spirit's call. Simeon, Lucius, Manaen. They didn't feel jealous or overlooked. Instead, immediate, joyful obedience. Barnabas, Saul, and the whole church, all part of the work. They continued in prayer. They continued in fasting. A beautiful picture of a healthy church community. They trusted the Holy Spirit. They trusted each other. The leaders staying behind knew their role was vital. They were the support system. They were the prayer warriors. They were the sending base. They held up Barnabas in prayer while he was on the front lines. They held up Saul in prayer while he was on the front lines. It shows there are no small roles in God's kingdom. Whether called to go or called to send and support, we are all essential. So, sent on their way by the Holy Spirit and commissioned by their faith community, Barnabas and Saul began their journey. This was not just a casual trip. It was the beginning of a movement that would change history. They were pioneers, stepping out into the unknown and armed with the gospel message and the power of God. They were pioneers, stepping out into the unknown and armed with the gospel message and the power of God. Their obedience was the key that unlocked the door for the good news to spread to new lands and new peoples. From this vibrant, diverse, and faithful community, the good news would travel far and wide. They were walking Bibles, carrying the story of Jesus' love in their hearts and on their lips, ready to share it with anyone who would listen. Their journey was a testament to teamwork. Barnabas, the encourager, Saul, the brilliant teacher. They complemented each other perfectly. They were a dynamic duo, chosen by God to work together. This reminds us that God rarely calls us to serve alone. He puts us in community and gives us partners for the journey. Their partnership shows the wisdom of God in bringing different gifts and personalities together for a common purpose. They would face challenges and difficulties, but they would face them together. This mission was a direct result of the church's obedience. It all started with a group of leaders who were simply seeking God's heart through worship and prayer. They listened, and when the Holy Spirit spoke, they acted. The entire church came together to support and send their brothers on this divine errand. Their faithfulness in that one moment had ripple effects that have continued down through the centuries, even to us today. Every time we hear the story of Jesus, we are benefiting from the obedience of that little church in Antioch so long ago. Their departure marked a new era for the early church. Until this point, the mission had largely been focused on reaching Jewish communities and those nearby. But this journey, initiated by the Holy Spirit in a diverse Gentile-majority church, was the beginning of a focused, intentional effort to take the message of Jesus to the ends of the earth. It was the fulfillment of Jesus' Great Commission. The journey of Barnabas and Saul was more than just a trip. It was God's love story going on tour, and the whole world was the stage. And it all began with a whisper of the Holy Spirit in a prayer meeting. God had a special plan for the believers in Antioch. The seeds of a global mission were being planted in the fertile soil of this amazing church. They put God's global mission above local comfort. In doing so, they unlocked a floodgate of blessing for the entire world. Every time we hear the story of Jesus, we are beneficiaries of their obedience. Whether called to go or called to send, each role matters in God's story. It began with worship, prayer, listening, and obedience. And a whisper set the world in motion. Acts chapter 13, a story of prayer, obedience, and a mission sent by the Holy Spirit.